Welcome to Aviation Careers Podcast. My name is Carl Valeri, and I'll be your host today. Today we're going to talk about those airline career pilot pathway programs and what they're about, and answer some of the questions that have come into this show. This question came in from somebody who went to aviationcareerspodcast.com/contact. You can also ask questions at feedback@aviationcareerspodcast.com. Oh, and don't forget, if you're looking for one of those free scholarships guides, we have a new sponsor. Our new sponsor of this episode is the law offices of Robert M. Strumer, LLC. You can find them at www.strumerlaw.com. They're giving away 50 scholarships guides, so you can get yours for free using the coupon code StrumerLaw. The law offices of Robert M. Strumer, LLC handles various aviation matters, safety investigations, and pilot medical certification. You can find them on the web at www.strumerlaw.com. Well, on to the show. This listener mail came in again from aviationcareerspodcast.com/contact, and it was a really good question, and I want to dive deeper into this. So let's get started with his question. He writes, "Thank you for your great content and helpful information. I've heard you answer multiple questions about people changing careers and getting into aviation a little later in life. That's the position I'm in. I'm trying to sort out what would be the best path for me. I'm 38 and currently have zero aviation experience. I feel like if I'm going to switch careers to aviation, I need to pick a path and stick with it, since I'm starting late and seniority is king. So the airline-specific programs are of interest to me, such as Southwest's Destination 225. What are your thoughts on these programs?" Well, let me talk a little bit about my thoughts on these programs. I think they're great, and it all depends on your personal situation, whether it's good for you or not. So let's take a little look, a bigger dive into the pros and the cons of the actual programs that are out there. These are those airline career programs that we call cadet programs. I might just start calling them cadet programs. We used to call them ab initio programs. That means from the beginning. But one of the benefits to these programs is you only have to interview once and you're done. You actually interview once, you're put into these programs, and that's it. Then you flow right into the major airline. Sometimes you have to take some time and go become an instructor, then you go to regional, then to the majors. One thing I will caution, though, is sometimes the costs may be higher than you think, and you actually have to pay for it on your own normally. So that's a big cost up front. During the good times, these programs are terrific. They're great for when the airlines are expanding. They're great for planning for our pipeline in the aviation community down the road for years ahead. But they also can get a little bit backed up. And just like the airlines, there may be opportunities in these programs depending on how the economy is doing at the time. So sometimes they open up, sometimes they close. So you have to watch the websites carefully. And by the way, that's another thing we're going to do. You know that scholarships guide we have? We're going to change it to the scholarships guide and also career program or careers guide. So Aviation Aerospace Scholarship and Careers Guide is what it's going to be. And it'll have in there these programs, the airline pilot career programs. Also, we're going to start a directory of different flight schools throughout the U.S., but we're going to start with the airline career pilot programs. So let's talk a little bit more about those programs. The one good thing about some of these programs, sometimes they call them the flow-throughs, is that when there's a pathway to a major airline, many times those programs will have you stop at a regional airline and then move on to the majors. The good thing about it with the regional airline, for those regional airline pilots, is the fact that people move off the seniority list a little bit quicker. In other words, they go from training, becoming a flight instructor, getting on with the regionals, then move on to the major. And that means some of those people are moving up and out. So that gives more opportunity for you to move ahead at the regionals. So you may move up quicker on the seniority list. During bad times, though, you have to look at the contract because they're all different. During bad times, what can happen is it can have flow backs, especially if it's a regional that's owned by the major. How does that work? Well, when they flow up, they still keep their seniority number, but during a furlough, instead of being thrown to the street or furloughed and not getting paid, they actually go back to the regional and start working at the regional. So something to look at because of the fact that you may wind up going back to the regional. Also, if you're at the regional, you may wind up getting furloughed off the end of the list. So that's actually kind of what happened to me, or that is what happened to me when I was working for Continental. So I wound up getting off the list and furloughed to the street. The Also, remember this, the time and the cost may be a little bit more than you anticipated. And you may even be able to get there quicker on your own than going through some of these career programs. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, in the career programs, there's certain limitations. So, for instance, if you go through all the flight instructor certificates, a lot of programs will require you to work for 2 years for them at the flight school that was the contractor to that airline. And that means maybe 24 months you actually have to give first before you can apply. Say within 18 months you get all the hours you need to get on with any other airline. Then you might start looking at those other airlines. And this career pathway program may not have been the best for you because you start looking at other airlines. And you can do that. You're not locked into that because you're paying for it yourself. So, but with that said, there's a good side to it too. You're guaranteed that job at the end. So that's kind of the thing to think about is, do you want to go on to that other airline opportunity, or do you want to wait till you get on with the major that you actually are within the program with? But here's the problem, is that, like you said, seniority is king, so you might lose a few months of seniority there. So again, you might be able to go quicker to another airline, which, by the way this is set up, there's no obligation usually to you because, again, you are paying for this flight training. So that is one good thing that the airlines have done in these programs, is it's actually helping the whole aviation community, because we're producing more pilots and people that can actually go to the airlines, and not just the airline, their own airline, that can go to all the different airlines. So sometimes different airlines in the different pathway programs grab from others. The other thing that I really like about these programs, and this is a big pro, is the fact that you actually, when you're becoming an airline pilot for that airline, they actually meld into the whole training process the procedures at that airline. For instance, they'll use similar checklists. They'll start the whole CRM, or crew resource management, right from the beginning. They get you in the whole mode of working with other crew members, using similar checklists, using similar procedures. So when you actually do get to the airline, you're used to actually calling the checklist and using those things the same way we do at the airlines. It may not seem like much, but remember, when you get to the airlines, it's really important to know your procedures, because, kind of like I've said in the past, it's like being in the choir at church as opposed to Carnegie Hall. When you get to the majors, you're at Carnegie Hall, and you got to get your lines straight. So that is one of the major bonuses there. These ab initio programs is what they used to be called. That's another thing that I think messes people up a little bit, is that these programs, these pilot career programs, airline career programs, were called ab initio at one time. We don't use that term quite as much anymore from the beginning, ab initio. Some of the ab initio programs in Europe are still the same, where you actually go work for these airlines. They help you pay for some of that, but you're also obligated to work for that airline. So if another opportunity comes up, you can't leave unless you give the money back for that. By the way, as far as paying for it yourself, there are some different programs out there, usually very few and far between, which will actually pay for it. But one of the best ways to do it is through the scholarships, and that's where you can use that scholarships guide to help you get through that. So again, these programs have been popular. They've been around for years. They finally have become accepted by society, I think, in the United States, which is terrific, taking someone from zero time all the way to an airline pilot. And I think it's a terrific thing. It also, the one bonus here is that it may be your last interview. You may just do that one interview and you're done, for the cadet program. So maybe you should think about that. Gosh, I don't want to interview anymore, so I'm going to have just the one interview. Now, one caveat here, again, if the economy turns down and the airline that you are in the career pathway program with, or airline career program with, may start having problems, you may have to interview again with another airline. So that could happen. Another thing you should look at too, so there's many different types of career pathway programs. Some start at your private, instrument commercial. Some of them will let you in, say you're already a flight instructor at a school. And some of these schools have affiliate programs with these airlines, the cadet type programs at these airlines. You can actually be melded into those cadet programs. Just one caveat, and I know some people have said this online, but be very careful, because some people say you can, get on with the airlines and don't worry about failing check rides. Not true with these cadet programs. Many of them will have a maximum of 3 check ride failures, and then you can't be in the program anymore. So just remember that if you're doing your training, you feel like you're not really prepared for that test or for that practical exam for your check ride, ask for some more training, because that will show up in your records later on. Which, by the way, is another thing too, is when you're in some of these programs, if you do have 3 different failures during that, you may actually be postponed as far as going forward to the airline, maybe even possibly brought out of the program if there is a challenge. A lot of times they'll work with you, or you just may not be going forward as quickly as before. They may customize the training for you because of that. So just remember that it's important to try to pass that check ride on the first time. Let me give you some examples. Maybe it'll help you out. We talked about Zero to Hero. One of the programs that I've been lucky to be involved with is a pathway type program where we'll take people from internally from the airline I work with and give them the opportunity to become pilots. So for instance, I was working with a flight attendant the other day, and the flight attendant actually went through the program, did all the training, got all their licenses, went and became a flight instructor for 2 years, and after 2 years went from flying a Cherokee to the right seat of an Airbus, and now is flying the Airbus for the airline that I work for. It's really a cool opportunity. And the one neat thing is now that person knows all the procedures, knows the airline. So a lot of those things have been done or in the past. Plus, the other cool thing is that they have a lot of times these mentors that help you out through that process. Something else to really look at. Some other things that you need to look at too is maybe another example is you may have just one interview in your life and that's it. That's pretty cool. So some of these programs where you do the one interview and you're done, they'll actually guide you through. There's quote unquote a mini interview, I guess, when you get to the airline. It's more like an acceptance interview. It's like, hey, here's your record. You did well. Welcome to our airline, and that's about it. Other programs that are out there, they're absolutely terrific, and they've been out there for a while, but they've kind of stepped up the game a little, are like the rotor transition programs. These are programs that are set up primarily for military pilots, but other rotor transition programs are out there where they will take people and bring them through a program where they possibly get them their pilot certificates, fixed wing certificates, so that they can actually fly a multi-engine. Then they might go work for a flight school that they're affiliated with. After that flight school, they move on to, say, the regional and then the major. Sometimes they go right to the major airline, which I think is absolutely terrific. There are so many different programs out there. There's so many different costs involved. And what you really need to do is do your research. So kind of do it backwards. Say, hey, one day I want to work for United Airlines. Well, look at United Airlines on their careers and page and look at some of their programs called the Aviate program, but they all have their different names. And look backwards, see, okay, where's their flight school? Is there one near me? If they're not there, what are my costs going to be as far as living is concerned, that type of thing. A lot of research to be done. Like I said, we're going to start including that in our aerospace scholarship and career guide that we're actually going to change the name of, so that you'll actually have a list of those. That's coming out here shortly, and I think it's going to be a great resource for you. There's a whole bunch of different programs out there for all these different airlines. The other cool thing is some of the bigger schools that are out there, and some smaller ones, have these programs and these programs with some of the career pathways with majors. And that's just like the coolest thing is here it is, a major airline coming to your school and they want to talk to you. And I think that's terrific. I think it's neat that they're actually putting these programs together because, as you know, it's a challenge finding pilots and pilots that are actually qualified. And this is one way that the airlines have started doing this. And these programs have been out there for years, and they've become a lot more accepted now. They weren't so much in the past, and now they are, and I think it's absolutely wonderful. But the most important thing you need to do is go out there and do your research. If you have questions, that's why we do the career counseling. If you want to find out if this is the best path for you, just check out our career coaching. Go to our Facebook page or go to our website, aviationcareerspodcast.com, and click on coaching and see if that's something that would help you to move forward and help you pick out which program is best for you for your specific situation. So to answer your question, what's the best path for you? That all depends on where you are, but these pathway programs are terrific. They may not be cheaper, but the one thing is they're very airline specific. But again, look at all your options because it may not be the best option for you. It may not be the fastest, but it could be. And again, it's looking at your specific, situation where you are. Also, in that guide I talked about, the scholarships guide, some of these scholarships can apply to those programs. So a few of them out there have those scholarships. And by the way, our sponsor of this episode, it's sponsored by the law offices of Robert M. Strumer, LLC. And you can find that at www.strumerlaw.com. They're giving away 50 of those scholarships guides, and you can get yours for free using that coupon code StrumerLaw. StrumerLaw. And by the way, we've had the law offices of Robert Strumer on before. They handle various aviation matters, safety investigation, pilot medical certificates. Please go out there and say thank you if you use those certificates to get one of those free scholarships guides. And again, you can find that at www.strumerlaw.com. Use a coupon code StrumerLaw. But most importantly, if you're thinking about one of these programs, do your research. I hope this has given you a little bit of color as to what these are, what these pilot airline career programs are, pilot programs are. They call them pathways, cadet programs. Maybe I'll call them cadet programs. I'm not sure in the future. We don't have really a good term for them. They all used to always call them ab initio programs, but now they've kind of changed the names to fit their airline. And there are many paths. I mean, some of them have a dozen different ways to go through their pilot career programs. There's many different flavors of them. Maybe you're a current employee, a current mechanic, a current applicant that has many years flying experience. They have a pathway to the airline for you, and there's something out there for you. But the most important thing is that you need to take action today. If you want to find out more about these, go out there and do some research, listen to podcasts like this, and find out if this is the best situation for you. If you need help, of course, we have that coaching. aviationcareerspodcast.com/coaching, or just go to our website, click on coaching. But take action today. Make sure you do something today to move forward in your career and in your life. It may be something just listening to a podcast like this, watching it on YouTube, researching some of the things that we have, and then going down and clicking on the different links in the show notes. Maybe it's just writing down something, a goal. If you heard something on here, quick writing down what it is you want to do. Set yourself a reminder. But take action today. Take one step today to move forward in your career and your life. We'll talk to you next episode. Safe flying out there.